welcome to another episode of the Alley Report, part of the Service Department. Today we are talking with Matthew Vaughn, Splatterpunk Award nominee and author of The Bowery 1 and 2. Thanks for coming on here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I, uh, I saw when because you shared one of the other interviews I did with Damien, and he said that you also write on your phone. And
Yeah,
what's your
it's just it's convenient. You always have your phone with you. I always have my phone with me, and like we were saying earlier today, I've got a bunch of kids, and so I'm always doing something. Taking kids to soccer practice and stuff like that. So it's convenient. To just pull out your phone if you want to work on something. So it's just
that's
I've
Yeah,
yeah.
that's amazing to me because I can make little notes, but I can't write anything. It's like to me it's like seeing people do like Olympic level sports. It's like you can do that, but I can't.
It's funny. It probably really started out something like that, just doing notes and things. But I mean, if I'm a little bit of time at work, I can pull my phone out, if I'm not busy and just got a continuous document going on. I've done as much as short stories and almost full length novellas, and then I'll just email it to myself and start editing like that straight from there. It's just convenient for me. Actually, I say this. Before that, I used to actually carry a notepad with me, like a little pocket-sized notebook,
Yeah.
and that was how I wrote everything. So the phone is much more convenient from an editing standpoint, and not having to retype everything that I wrote out. That was kind of
Yeah.
a really laborious process.
Yeah, 'cause I know I don't know about you, but me personally, I have like the worst handwriting. Like I'll write notes, like scribble stuff down in the middle of the night and wake up next morning and like I don't know what this says or what it means. All context is missing now.
Yeah, I've had some problems where I went to rewrite or type up what I had written, and I'm like, what in the heck is this even saying? I'm trying to figure out this jumbled mess.
Yeah, it's like I thought it was brilliant enough to write down in the middle of the night, but now it's lost forever.
Yeah,
Tears in the rain.
yeah. What can you do?
Um, well, in addition to the, writing, I know you do art, like you do illustration, you do your own drawings and things like that.
Yeah, not as much as I used to. When I was younger, got really into comic books, and that was the thing, drawing superheroes from comics. And me and my brother, we used to just do it just constantly. It's like we always getting a drawing pad anytime we could, and we would just fill it up with, you know, at first it was copying pictures from comics, and then it became, trying to develop your own style with drawing superheroes or your own superheroes, things like that. And now it's just I draw bookmarks for when people order books, signed books from my store, and I put a hand drawn bookmark in, with every order. It's pretty much
Oh, that's
the
cool.
only, yeah, it's the only real drawing I do right now. I always think about wanting to do more, but I just never seem to have the time.
Yeah, it's when it's like because I know that like having kids, having a family, there's that fight for time. So it's like sometimes it's hard enough just to find time to do one thing, one way of expressing yourself, much less trying to do two.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
I was just somebody not too long ago about that. I've always been really creative, but I've always liked to do multiple different things, and it's kind of got to a point where it's like you just kind of have to concentrate on the one thing that you want to be really good at. You just don't have time to do them all anymore.
oh yeah, and the way you talked about, with art, with anything, there's that when you start there's a phase where you're kind of imitating, like you're going to imitate people that inspired you until you find your own way. Um, so when you were first starting out writing, what was like, who were you imitating, like at first before you found like your voice?
Well, early on, probably Stephen King, Clive Barker. Back when I first started attempting to write short stories, that's who I was reading. Dan Simmons, people like that, and so I always there's probably buried somewhere in a box. I have like short stories that are probably blatant Stephen King ripoffs, really, you know.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
same.
yeah. And then as I got older, um, and got serious about writing, I was reading more like Will Christopher Bear, Stephen Graham Jones, Craig Clevenger, that type of transgressive, more literary type stuff, and Chuck Palahniuk,
Yeah,
Bret Easton Ellis. So that's kind of the what I was really probably when I was getting serious. That's who I was probably imitating more than anything else before I started gravitating more towards bizarro and horror and started actually finding my own voice there.
yeah. Um, and yeah, because you were more your style fits in more with the extreme horror, splatterpunk, and uh that whole area. Which
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
I've noticed like a lot I've seen, at least on different Facebook groups I'm part of, that a lot of readers are gravitating more toward that. It's kind of like they don't want just this what the normal horror writing is. Like they want something that pushes a little more, pushes them as readers and pushes the story a little more.
Yeah, it is really. There's been this really big uh, resurgence of like that extreme style. That yeah, it seems like a lot of people over the last I don't know year or two have really gotten into it. Especially like if you look at like the splatterpunk groups on Facebook, they're really filling up with like a lot of members and a lot of people, looking, pushing, I haven't found that thing that is too much for me yet. You see a lot of that in there.
Yeah,
People are always looking for, what is the line that they can't cross. And for me, I it's gonna sound kind of funny. I started writing the more extreme style because I felt like I was not a very good horror author. I couldn't write the scary, I couldn't write something that's actually going to scare somebody or a even thriller type, suspenseful thing. So I gravitated more towards the extreme because I was like, well, I can do that. I can write blood and guts and try to make things gross. So it's kind of it's worked well for me. Not gonna lie. It's kind of you know my strengths and I do have some. I wrote a short story for an anthology recently that's not extreme splatterpunk whatsoever. And when I sent it in, it's kind of like, oh, this is a little different. Wasn't expecting this, But so I still have, there's still the enjoyment in writing something that isn't quite so over the top, and
yeah,
but you know, just can't help it sometimes.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's like whenever you're into writing, you have your own little niche area. There is like after a while, it's like it's almost scary. It's like if you're stuck with the same thing, or you feel like you're stuck. So you almost have to write something different. It's like, okay, I can do that. You almost feel comfortable going back to what you did before. It's just like I stretched my legs a little bit. I went outside my comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And there's that whole, like you're almost scared to get too far outside of the norm because you don't want to alienate, the fan base that you might have. You
Yeah,
know, it may not be very big, but you still want those same readers to want to, pick up the next book. Like if I go straight too far away, people are going to read it and be like, oh, what is he doing here? I don't like this, But
yeah,
um, yeah, I have things that uh, in the works. I'm kind of one of the people that I have a lot of things that I've started, and eventually I'll work my way back around to actually finishing. So I
hmm,
have some things that are not quite they're not the extreme horror splatter punk that I usually do, and I want to get them done, and I'd like to get them out there. You know, I think I feel like got a decent little fan base that would still appreciate it. So we'll find
yeah,
out.
yeah. I've seen that. I feel like a lot of times when you get like a true fan base, to me that's what a true fan base is. Is like you're like I'm going to do this kind of style, and then like oh. well, I want to read that because even though Splatterpunk brought me to you, like I want to see what else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, also like having like being an indie horror field, we have families, we have day jobs, we have all these things. Um, Whenever you're sitting down, to write and create something story, how does that do you pull from life a lot, or do you try to like purposely wall that away and your writing is going to be based on something completely different?
You know, I don't know that I pull from my life a lot. I mean, a lot of the stuff I write is pretty wild and over the top, but there are instances, like I have a the story I wrote for that Family Feud that I did with Joe Orlib and my brother and his son Robert, and my story was about hunters, and where I live and work, there is a lot of people that's their thing. Every hunting season they're hunting and everything, and so I hear that a lot, and I do, like I use that. I actually have a buddy. I had to ask him about a couple questions about something. I was like, I like to be, accurate, I guess, with my story. I was like, so I asked him a couple questions, so that I could put it in there. So, between that and then just picking up from reading things online and that kind of stuff I pull from. But a lot of stuff is, I think, a little. I just try to use my imagination as much as possible and it creates something like really just out there. I guess you look at something like I have a book, The Magic Elf Christmas Massacre, and I got kids and we've got the elves, elves on the shelf that we do every year. And I look at this and I'm like, this is a story. So
Yeah.
it took me a little while, but I finally was like, all right, I got an idea. And I started writing. I put that book out 2 years ago, I think. And I keep saying I want to write a sequel to it, and I haven't done it yet, but eventually. So sort of,
Yeah.
yeah, I do pull some from real life.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. For me, it's never personal life, but it's like those little details that that can draw people in and really build out the world. So like they're in it, and then you can do the weird shit, and they buy it better. They
Yeah.
buy it more. There's more stakes to it because like okay, I established a real world stuff a little bit, and now they're ready for the weird stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it definitely helps when you can do that, like you said, and kind of ground it out, it's like this is give something that people can kind of familiarize, themselves with, like, all right, then you get crazy and weird and
Yeah,
extreme and over the top.
yeah. It's like I know this play, and that you kind of mentioned earlier, but I just love like I think one of my favorite things I saw as far as like people getting into the extreme in splatterpunk was somebody posted a review for a book that they read, and they're like, "This was the most disgusting, awful, horrible thing I've ever read. What else you got?" And that was literally like the whole
Yeah.
status. I don't know why
Yeah.
I've loved that so much. It's like um, it's not a thing I can write, but I just love it seeing people just in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I see that kind of stuff too, and and it's kind of like in my mind, a friendly competition. You're like, oh, it's like, what can I do in the next book that's even grosser than what everybody's talking about right now, or what can I do that maybe is more disturbing than the book of the month that everybody's talking about. So it's like I sometimes, like I said, yeah, I feel like I'm not that great of a writer as far as creating, a nice world and characters that people can, really get a feel for and all this stuff. I tend to go more like you're watching a B-rated horror movie and it's
Yeah,
just, kill after kill after kill. I introduce characters just to kill them off. But, it's,
yeah. I feel like that's a strength. Like they say, like oh, I can't really do this other stuff. It's like I just feel like you have like a strength and you focus on it. Because I feel like there's some people that they can master plot, they can master character. Like some can do it all, but some have like an area where it's like that's where I can nail it right there.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. It's like, I know my strengths. I try to stick with them.
Yeah. Um, and I do love that you did the Christmas because the Elf on the Shelf is always just been it's always creeped me out the idea of it. So it seems like it's just a great basis for a horror anything. Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
just
we've been doing it for a lot of years. And so I always said, every year I'm like, man, I need to write a story around this thing. And I kept expecting someone's going to come up with it, before me. There's no way that I'm the first person, to do something like this. And I'm pretty sure somebody I seen wrote another story, and judging by the cover of their book, I can't remember who it was. It looks like they probably were basing it off around the same thing, but it just still seems like there's a lot more potential. I mean, you basically have a 5 inch Christmas Chucky almost. There's so much you could do, and a world you could create with something so small as a little elf doll. But it's very common. Lots and lots of people have them, and everybody, yeah, it's creepy as hell. They're just sitting around your house staring at you all the time. It's like
like lifeless
perfect
eyes.
horror. Yeah, perfect horror, fodder right there.
I
But
feel like the real horror is that you have to come up with a new thing that Elf's doing like every day for a month. I think that's the true terror.
yes, it's the worst. And then it's just like it just never ends. We have just seems like kid after kid. Now we have a 3-year old, so she's starting to get into it too. So it's like this is just gonna go on forever.
See, now you have the older kids. Maybe you can just push that on them, like, "Hey, come up with something. What do you come up? What do you want the elf to do?"
Yeah,
I'm
that's why you have
exhausted.
them, right? Yeah, no more waking up early in the morning like, ah, crap, I forgot to do something with it. We better get up and move that thing before they do.
I feel like there's so many childhood things that are a good basis for horror. Like that, there's just so much that like the idea of the elf on the shelf is like, it's like, oh, it's a fun little elf, and every morning's a new thing. Also, it's surveillance and creepy, and it's watching you.
Yeah.
Um, with writing like the splatterpunk stuff. Have you ever, when you talk about always trying to not only you're competing with yourself but competing with other writers, in a friendly way, but like, have you ever reached the point where it's like that maybe I've gone too far, or maybe I'll put that on the back, maybe I'll back up on that.
Um, nah, I don't know. Not on anything I've published yet, but there's something I'm working on. I was actually thinking about it earlier today. Um, wondering, it's like, who I can send it to when I'm done to ask them what they think. It's like, is this too much? Is this gonna turn people off? But I'm sure anybody who I'll probably send it to read would be like, nope, nope, this is awesome. Keep doing it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's things that would be too much that I haven't attempted to do yet, and I probably won't. And I guess there's a certain line that I don't really want to cross. I'm sure other people do. I'm pretty positive there's some things out there that I haven't read them yet, but I'm like, I don't think I want to do that. But I go pretty far, so kind of hard to say. What somebody else might think is going too far, but for myself, I have not yet really. That answers your question.
Yeah. Well, like I feel like in general when you write, especially when you write horror, like after a while, like your threshold for what's too much change because there's times where I wrote stuff and I consider myself a pretty tame writer horror wise, and every now and then somebody does something that's like that was messed up. I'm like really, really, I don't think I do messed up, but I feel like you kind of lose that line after a while.
Yeah, you just gets a little. You just get so used to it that you don't even realize that you've actually gone a little further maybe than you normally would have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Um, and you did have something recently on. I always try to get the writers talk about what's the most recent thing you got out people could check out, and you have something on had a story on Godless last month.
Yeah. throughout last year, I was doing this thing where I was trying to put at least a short story out every month and have like the 14th of every month. I'm either, putting out a story or putting out a novella. It's a little, it was too much. I can't do one a month. So I'd skip a month here or there. So I was kind of keeping it going this year. So last month, I had this short story called Notes about a guy that wakes up in his apartment and finds a post-it note that he doesn't remember leaving. And of course, first thought is, like, did I do this? I do this in the middle of the night, don't remember it. Did someone come in my apartment while I was sleeping and leave a post-it note or something? And kind of just lets it go. But then, a couple days later, wakes up again. There's another one, and then it kind of just starts progressing to more and more, and then weird stuff starts happening to him, and it's kind of more of a is he losing his mind? What is really going on here? Kind of where I was going for.
Yeah.
It does have the splattery stuff in it, but it's a fun little story. Probably trying to think, 7,000 words long, nothing real crazy, but seems to have gone over well with people who read it. They seem to like it. It's one of those ones where I kind of try to do something different instead of just being straight up my normal extreme horror splatter punk. I tried to change it up, get a little more channel a little more of my old bizarro type stuff I used to do,
Yeah.
and yeah, and rely less on the splattery stuff, and a little more on, I guess, psychological, But it's a fun little exercise, I guess.
Yeah. I love
But
anything that calls reality into question. I always enjoy those. 'Cause just even when it ends, it's like I don't know what was real or what happened. Like,
yeah, yeah, a little bit ain't be good in there. Uh, I don't think I'm going to do anything in July though for a release on Godless. I think I'm skipping July to try to get something maybe a little bit longer. I've got a couple novellas I've been working on, and
nice.
like, yeah, and one of them I have a novella I put out last year called House Call, and that's it's a pretty gross one. It has about a plumber goes to a house and just to unclog a drain, and basically the people there take him and lock him up in their basement, and a lot of really bad stuff happens. And so I'm gonna re-release it with a new cover, and I have a sort of sequel is what I'm working on. It's more of a takes place in the same universe rather than being a true sequel. So it's like the same house, the same people, different stuff happening to different
Yeah.
people. Yeah. So I was hoping to get it out pretty soon. So I wanted to re-release the first one with a new cover, and then the second book, we'll call it, uh, will have kind of a similar cover, kind of get them out kind of close together. So it's mainly what I've been concentrating on these days.
And but I know you told me like initially we were like I'm gonna do one thing a month, and that got to be a little much. But at the same time, do you think having like forcing yourself to do like as much as you can, like a monthly goal or even every other month goal, like keeps you like writing, makes it easier to jump in and out?
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of like I'm kind of lazy. So having, that self-imposed deadline does kind of force me to stay working, because you kind of yeah, I don't feel like doing anything today. You get up and want to play on your phone, or just be lazy. But it's kind of like, I got 2 weeks left and I got to get this done and I got to get this out. So it kind of definitely keeps me going, keeps me grinding a little bit. And then, but then sometimes, like I said, I end up skipping months because I just can't, no matter how hard I work on it, just depending on, length and things like that. It's just like I just can't get it done in time and be happy with it. So I'll skip the month, give myself an extra month to get it done. But then you got to kind of worry about that because you're like, oh, I got a whole month. I can take a little bit of time off. I don't have to work on it today. So I got to watch it. I got to keep deadlines in my mind anyway, those self-imposed deadlines, keep it going.
Yeah, that's the only way to get anything done is with a self-imposed deadline or like I was doing some stories and illustrations for a project, and the editor on it was like, "Oh, well, when do you think you had this done?" I was like, and I gave myself like a month. They're like, "Well, do you need more time?" I was like, "No, it won't get done if I give myself more time. Like, I need a punishing
Yeah,
schedule. I need a scary deadline to get the work done."
yeah, yeah. I've a couple times been asked to write something, and it's like, oh, when you need it by, it's like, ah, well, we're not gonna, it's gonna be a little while. You've got time. I'm like, no, you can't give me time, because I'm gonna wait, and then you're gonna be all like, oh, you can have that ready next week, and I'll be like, crap, I haven't even started on it yet.
Yeah, I've had a few projects where it's like, "Oh, I have tons of time," and it's like, "Fuck, there's like a day. Like, what happened? Where did the time go?"
Yeah, yeah. Wasted it on my phone, not doing anything.
And it's so easy to like all huge repository of information, and I'm just looking up random facts about nonsense.
Yeah, yeah. That's the one thing about writing on my phone that I do have a problem with sometimes because then it's like you're like, well, I want to. You might be in the middle of writing something, and then a thought occurs. Like, well, let me look this up, or try to you know find a different word to use here or something, and the next thing you know, you're down a rabbit hole of of reading stories on Google, or next thing you know, you're on Facebook, and yeah, you got to
Names
kind of
are
be
what
careful.
Yeah, names are what do me in on that kind of thing. Like I'm writing, it's like, oh, this character needs a name. Oh, I'll go through my social media, see if anybody has a name I like. Or okay, well now I'll look on a genealogy website. What were popular names in 1937? And it's just a nonsense. Like I should just put person A or something because all I do is just completely derail any progress I'm making. It's always
Yeah.
names. Like I want to see people do like clever names or names that hint at who the character is. It's like I can't do that, and I end up using the same names. So every now and then I have to do like just the search all function on my computer with my stories, make sure I'm not repeating names over and over again.
Uh, I worry about that sometimes. I'm like, man, do I just use the same names over and over again? And sometimes it's uh, I'll might like, well, let me look at some stuff, make sure I haven't actually used this name already,
Mhm.
like that. Yeah, I just feel like it's just like just grab the first thing that comes to mind, and it's all like, man, how many times have I used this name? It's like, well,
Yeah,
no, they're not all the same character in multiple stories. I swear.
yeah, I did that once where I realized like it was the name Abigail was in like six stories when I was trying to get a collection ready, and so, like in the same thing, it's like these are not all the same characters. Now I just do a thing on Twitter. I'm like, I need a name for a story. Can who's down? And people will be like, yeah, use my name. So that's what I've been doing.
Oh, nice. Well, that's pretty easy way, pretty good way to do it.
Yeah, so then they
Get some random
volunteer, like,
real,
because
yeah.
I used to
Good way to
choose
get some
family.
unusual names too.
Yeah, I used to choose family
Yeah.
because I thought they would think it'd be fun. Like, oh look, I've named the serial killer after you, and then people would be like, I don't want that. I don't like. Why did you think I would enjoy that you did this? Like,
That's great.
it's like, oh, okay.
I
Well,
wouldn't worry about that. I don't really let family read my stuff.
that's always um, like my oldest is always asked, "Can I read the things you've written?" And I'm like, "No, no, you can't." She's like, "Well, my friends have." Like, what? Yeah, like so and so bought it, and so and so read it, and so and so read it. It's like, oh, I don't think that's good. So and so's parents read it. It's like, oh no,
Yeah. Sometimes I'm at work and someone will be all like, "Hey, you know, I don't tell a lot of people that I write because it's kind of difficult, to explain." They're like, "What do you write about?" I'm like, hard for me to say.
you're not
But
ready.
Yeah, and then they'll be like, "Hey, I bought one of your books online," And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, are you actually gonna read that?" It's like you're gonna think about me differently every day from now on. Now, you know that.
It's it's that funny thing where we desperately want and need readers, but it's like we don't need them in our circle though. So, like
Yeah,
outside my circle, I don't need no one I'm gonna run into, no one that's on the school board. Like I don't need anything like that in my life.
yeah, no kidding. Actually, one of the guys I'm pretty good friends with at work, he said something to his manager one day about it, and I'm like, "This is, a pretty straight laced guy that he probably has." not read or really watches any horror movies or anything like that. He's like, "Oh, really? What do you write about?" So I'm like, "Oh man, everybody at work, I can't. I don't know. Afraid to say the wrong thing. It's like, now you're really gonna think weird about me now."
You should just choose like another writer and just be like, yeah, that's my pseudo name. Like, I've been Dean
Yeah,
Koontz all
there's
along. I don't need this job.
yeah. It's one of those things, though, when using your real name as your writer name, sometimes it's like you kind of think, should I have went with a pen name? Would life be easier if I had just went with a pen name? But,
Yeah, I've thought
oh
that
well.
because like that, there's that Joe Lansdale thing, right? Like everyone you know is dead. It's like, but they're not, and they're gonna read this.
Yeah,
I my parents are so proud. They read everything. Like I can't.
yeah, yeah. I don't think my parents would be proud.
The only time they ever it was I did a story with an ambiguous ending, and my dad was like, "Don't you ever do that shit again." I needed to know how that
Nice.
ended. Like I needed I needed a conclusion. Like, nothing about the violence or anything else. It's just that it was an ambiguous one. I didn't really say what ended. He's like, "Don't you do that shit again?"
That's great. That's great. I don't mind an ambiguous ending, but yeah, a lot of people do. A lot of people get really upset about that.
Yeah, like it's funny to me. It's when I can tell that it was on purpose and like there's a reasoning behind it, and the author clearly had a vision for why they didn't give you the answer or whatever. Then I love it. It's kind of like the David Lynch. Like I don't need to understand it to just be in awe of it. But sometimes there's somewhere it's like you didn't know how to end this. Like you wrote yourself into a corner and you tried. I can tell what you were up to.
Yeah, this kind of sounds like I don't know. A lot of people seems like they complain about Stephen King and his endings on stuff.
Yeah,
You know, yeah,
which
but
which I think I never mind his endings. I think what the problem has always been like he's really good at writing that cosmic horror, Lovecraftian, undefeatable monster, and that serves you well through the whole book. But then you got to defeat it or come to an ending. I think people like feel it takes away. I feel like that's what the thing is behind his endings. When people are like, he can't end one. It's like he can. He just has to kind of depower the monster a little bit. I think people don't.
hmm
Maybe that's what people don't respond to because it's always like,
yeah,
well, how
I
else
can
was that
see
supposed
that.
to end?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's only what can you do? Yeah. I've never really minded his endings either. I can't think of a particular one that really bothered me too much. Um, I know like a lot of people have problems with Paul Tremblay and his endings too. He leaves his pretty ambiguous, but again,
Which
I've read all his stuff.
yeah, which I like. What was they renamed it was the cabin at the end of the world. Forget what they
Hmm.
renamed the movie to. But a friend of mine saw the movie and was like, "Eh." I was like, "Read the book. Read the book. It's better. It's better
Yeah,
because they don't. It's never clear exactly what is going on, and it works way better to me."
yeah. His Knock at the Cabin. We actually just watched it for the first time like 2 months ago, because actually that's my favorite book from him. And so been wanting to watch the movie. We just don't watch a lot of movies. We just
Yeah,
are always busy, and most everybody here would rather sit around and read than watch movies anyway. So it's times that we do, we sit around and try to find something like what do we really want to watch. So we chose that, and I liked it. I mean, they did obviously the complete change of the ending, but I still thought it was pretty enjoyable
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same. I thought it was good. It was just the movie was better, which I feel like that's. I mean, the book was better, but I feel like that's all common in a lot of time. A lot of times.
Yeah, I don't know actually two books that I know that I can think of that I actually like the movies better, and I've always thought that it was probably because I watched the movies first. It's Fight Club and American Psycho, and I'd watched those movies, when it first came out, and I had never read the books. And then, years later, when I finally got around to reading the books, I'm like, well, these books are really good, but I like the movies better. And I wonder
Yeah.
that, had I read the books first, I feel the same.
Well,
But
with Fight Club, I feel like the author said the movie was better. Like, 'cause I feel like Palahniuk said
yeah,
that movie was better. But
there's, I think it structurally, it just works better the way they did it in the movie. really, you know. Um, and then there's some changes made that I think they're just, just work so much better. Still, I think it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, it's a very different kind of thing. Which also, I mean, same thing. I saw the movie first, and when I started reading Palahniuk stuff, I almost left that to the side because it was like I'd seen the movie and I heard people say the movie was better, so I didn't get to it for a long time. Then I finally read it. And I was like, oh, it is good. Like I kind of with you. I think the movie made some structural things that were a little better, but it was good.
Yeah. I think it was like maybe like the third book I read of his. I don't know that I intentionally didn't read it first. I don't really know why I didn't read it first when I first started picking this up. Oh well, first was because somebody let me borrow Choke.
Yeah,
That's actually how I started even reading this stuff. Someone was all like, "Here, have you read him? Try reading this."
that was.
Yeah,
I swear that was the first one I read of his. It was
that's a
Choke,
good
and then I
one.
read Invisible Monsters.
That's exactly what I did too. That's weird. Which I don't know. Have you read his Invisible Monsters redo?
I
I
haven't.
don't know how
No.
long ago it came out. I did not enjoy it. It restructures the book to I think what he said was his original intention, but I like the original printing of it. That was
I just
a
I
lot better.
remember that one ending in a way that like revealed so much all at once. It was like everything tied together, and then all at once you saw what was actually going on the whole time. I don't know. I remember being
Yeah,
really impressed by it, so I can't imagine how you would improve on that. And it sounds
yeah.
like
I
maybe you
feel like
didn't. Maybe you didn't.
yeah, well, yeah. In my opinion, he didn't. But the a lot of the reveal is earlier in the book, and I remember telling my wife when I was reading, I'm like, why would you do this? It's like you just revealed a bunch of stuff way too early, and
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of just seemed weird to me. But I guess I think it was like his publishers or something that made him change it or suggested he change it or something. Is why it was the way it was in the original printing, but
Oh, so then
I'm not
he's kind of
sure.
like, now I'm going to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, yeah, once you're not afraid of your publisher anymore, you got a name for yourself, it's easier to just, put your foot down and do what you want to do.
I hope we all get to that stage where we can, where we can be like, I have enough power to make terrible decisions about my own work. I've done it.
Well, that's the good thing about self-publishing,
That's
you
true.
don't have anybody to tell you that even if
No one can
it's a
stop
bad
you.
idea, yeah. I think it's
Well,
happened might have happened to a few of us.
yeah. I mean, I feel like there's times where I've been like, if there was an editor, they probably would stop me from doing that one thing
Yeah.
in a good way. Well, thank you again for coming on here. Appreciate you talking to me. And people out there, you can find Matthew Vaughn's work on Godless and Amazon. You know, I've seen people share a lot of stuff about Bowery and Bowery 2, like especially like on Books at Horror Facebook group. So, those are good ones to check out.
Yeah. Yeah, those are for whatever reason, people liked them and they're kind of like my I guess most well known, we'll say. Yeah, so it's a good place to start anyway.
Damn right.